Many thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring this week's video. Gosh, there's nothing worse than being the first person on the trail and every 50 yards you're walking right through a spider web. I've spent the last 10 minutes of this hike just constantly just wiping off. There's another one right there, my gosh. So I've got a question for you. If you could, for whatever reason, no longer do any type of landscape photography, if landscape photography wasn't a thing, but you had to do some type of photography, what genre would you choose? Would it be like portrait photography or wedding photography, events, wildlife, sports photography? Just leave a comment in the comment section below and let me know. I'm just curious what everyone else's second choice or other type of photography that they're interested in. I'm just wondering if there's a kind of a common theme there, because personally, I actually don't watch a great deal of YouTube, but when I do, I very rarely ever watch anything related to landscape photography. And I have this kind of I guess a secret obsession, if you will, with street photography. Now, if you are like me and you watch any type of street photography, or if you pay attention to some of the more popular street photography YouTube channels that are out there, you will notice one thing, and that's the majority of them use a filter that's like, I think it's called a black mist filter or pro mist filter, or I think every company calls it a little bit different. And they use it because it makes highlights kind of glow a little bit. So with street photography, there's always a ton of light, especially obviously at night, street lights, cars, neon signs of storefronts, things like that. And you use these mist filters and it really makes those highlights glow. And a couple months ago, I started thinking about that. I was like, I wonder if you could do the same thing with for landscape photography, because I haven't heard of anyone using that type of filter for outdoor photography. And I was really curious to kind of test it out and just see if it would make sense or if it would produce similar results that it does for street photography. So in the quest of trying to perform this test, I reached out to my friends over at NISI to try and get my hand on some of these black mist filters, and they were kind enough to send me over some. And I've actually been filming everything on this video with one of the black mist filters on my Fuji X-T4, and I also have another one for my Fuji GFX 100S. So all the video will have the black mist filter applied, and also all of the photos that I take on this trip or on this little excursion, if you will, has that same black mist filter on it. And I use it in the Smoky Mountains, and actually my favorite photo that I captured on that trip had this kind of ethereal kind of highlight glow that was created by these filters, and I really, really enjoyed it. And I find from the limited amount of time that I've used it over the last 2 months that it really, really works great in woodland areas. So hence why I am here today. So I'm pretty excited to try and find some areas where some interesting light is kind of coming through the canopy of the trees to see if I can kind of make it glow a little bit more. Man, it feels like an absolute jungle out here. It is so humid. I'm sweating to death over here, but I found this nice kind of very simplistic composition, which is exactly what I'm always looking for in woodland photography. And just these two trees with an interesting kind of, I guess, I don't know, tree wrapping around the tree, and then there's a little log in the foreground there. And then these just nice ferns, and every once in a while some of that dappled light kind of comes through there, and it just looks like a very simplistic photograph, but you know, the light's kind of in and out. I got a couple where the light was really good, and I got a couple other versions where the light was really soft, but it definitely looks best with the little puddles of light across the foreground there. But real basic composition, just kind of trying to loosen up a little bit, shake off the proverbial cobwebs that are surely coating my face, which I apologize if there are cobwebs all over me, because I'm itching to death because I feel like they are, but hopefully they're not. So I found this scene right here. The light's starting to get a little bit harsh, but it's a pretty interesting scene. There's a lot going on in it, but it definitely has some potential. And I have my camera up so high because I didn't want it a little bit lower and have to angle the camera up, because then I would get a lot of these converging and diverging lines of the trees, and I'm trying to keep the trees as straight as I possibly can. So I've got my tripod fully extended, hopefully to alleviate that issue. Now, have you ever heard of the image review technique where you load your photos on your computer and you flip it upside down in order to review the composition? And what happens when you flip the image upside down is your brain doesn't quite perceive exactly what it's seeing. So if you take let's say an image of trees in a stream, and when you look at it right side up, your brain sees trees in a stream. But when you flip it upside down, it doesn't really quite see the trees in the stream. It really sees shapes and it sees light. And this is a pretty popular, I shouldn't say pretty popular, it's a somewhat common image review technique or compositional technique that you do whenever you get your images back home, just to kind of figure out if there's a better way to crop it by just looking at the shapes and just kind of taking the actual objects out of the mindset of it or the decisioning process and just look at the shapes that are created by those objects. Now, I've been doing this kind of upside down image review technique for the past couple of years, and it really does help. And if all this sounds kind of like hocus pocus and weird, definitely just try it out. Take any of your photographs, put it on your computer, flip it upside down, and take a minute and look at it. And I guarantee you won't see the objects as much as you do the shapes and the negative space that is created by those shapes. And when it comes to composition, I'm always focused on the shapes and the negative space that those shapes create. And I find that to be the most beneficial thing. And by doing this image review technique is a great way to kind of trick your brain into not paying attention to the objects themselves, but paying more attention to the shapes that those objects create. Now, as beneficial as this kind of image review technique is, it's an after the fact kind of thing. You know, you're reviewing images on your computer, which obviously means that those images are already created in your home from your trip. So the only thing that this can really do for you is give you different ideas as to how to potentially crop a specific photograph, or give you additional, I should say, give you additional ideas as things you can try the next time you're out on location. But it's an after the fact kind of a thing. So I started to think to myself, always trying to figure out ways to think a little bit differently, to do things a little bit differently, especially from a compositional perspective. What if there was a way to do this on location? Because that would be super powerful. So I came out to this very woodland, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago to try and figure out exactly, if there was a way to do this while you're on location. Because like I just mentioned, that would by far be the most beneficial, approach or technique, in my opinion, to do this. And it was really simple to do. I just got on location and I started taking photographs, and then you just basically review the image, of course, and then flip it upside down so you can see it on the back of your camera upside down. And it's really easy if you're using a longer lens that actually has a tripod collar on it, because you don't have to take your camera off the elbow or off of your ball head. You can just loosen your tripod collar and spin it around. So the next time you're on location, just review some of your photographs. Let me go to one of the images where the light was good on this scene. I think that looks good right there. And then if you have any of your EXIF data or anything on your screen, just kind of turn that off. And this is the image that I think looks best for this particular composition. And if you have a tripod collar, just loosen your tripod collar, rotate your camera upside down. You can lock it back in place if you like. And now you can see the composition. Block some of that to clear there. Now you can see the composition upside down, and I find that to be wildly beneficial, because you don't really see as much the trees and the tree trunks anymore. You really just see the shapes and the negative space that are created by those trees, and that's going to help you to kind of refine this composition if you want to. Now, if you're not using a longer lens that has a tripod collar, it's really no different. You just take your camera off of the ball head, review one of your photographs, and just hold your camera upside down. But the ultimate goal is just to be able to see your photograph while you're on location upside down, because like I said, your brain isn't going to perceive the trees or the water or the mountains. It's just going to look at the shapes that those subjects are creating. And it sounds a little bit weird, and I would highly encourage you just try it out, and I guarantee you'll start to look at composition a little bit differently. It only takes about a minute to do. It is definitely worth trying. You might try it out, think it's the dumbest thing in the world, or it might be something that's incredibly beneficial. And personally, I find it to be definitely worth the extra minute or 2 minutes while you're on location, is to try and kind of get those compositional juices flowing a little bit more. I'm feeling kind of dumb right now. I've never filmed video with these black mist filters on, and I have 3 different kinds. I have a 1/2 strength, an 1/8 strength, and a 1/4 strength, and I've shot plenty of photos with the 1/2 strength, which is the strongest. But that's what I'm filming everything on for this video, and I have no idea what it's going to look like. And I was just thinking to myself, man, it is pretty risky to film an entire video using a filter that you've never used before, especially something that's kind of unique, like a black mist filter. So I have now I'm starting to really second guess all of this. So hopefully it does all come out well. Like I said, I know that the half mist filter looks great with photos, but I'm not 100% certain how it's going to look on video. So I don't know, I guess time will tell. So I found this composition here with these nice two trees that are kind of just angling from the bottom left-hand corner to the upper right-hand corner. They're kind of cast in shadows. I think they're oak trees, but I just really like the shapes that they create. And it's got these nice kind of green ferns at the base of the tree, and very simplistic photograph. I have it in a portrait orientation, but what's really cool is that the light that's coming through is positioned, or I kind of rotate it around to where that light is right in the middle of these two trees, right in the separation of those trees, or the gaps. And it kind of creates a good focal point to kind of draw the eye through the overall scene. But I really like this image, very simplistic. I haven't really found a whole lot that's gotten me super excited today. I spent almost all my time hiking to this location, and by the time I got there, the light was pretty harsh. It took about an hour and a half to get to that spot. Now I'm just kind of walking my way out, but I'm in a kind of a canopy of trees where the light still seems to be okay. And there's the composition right there. I just brightened it up a little bit so you could easily see it, but that's kind of how I captured it, really. And I did a landscape orientation and a vertical orientation. I'm not 100% certain which one I like better, but I like the overall composition. It's very simplistic. And since I'm not using a longer lens for this image, I don't have a tripod collar, I would just take the camera off, flip it upside down, and just review the images that way. Let me go to the other versions here. So there's the landscape orientation, flip it upside down. And what's really cool about looking at your image like this is it's fantastic for determining whether or not your photograph is balanced, because your eye just kind of goes away from looking at the ferns and the trees and the trees in the background. It just really looks at just the overall shapes of it all. And to me, that image looks perfectly balanced. If you come back here to the vertical orientation, same thing. See, now this one to me looks a little bit less balanced, but not saying that flipping the camera in an upside down orientation is the end all be all solution to all compositional struggles, but one thing I can guarantee you is that it will definitely get you thinking a little bit differently. And for me personally, when it comes to composition, that's what it's all about, is thinking a little bit differently, thinking a little bit outside of the box. And I think that flipping your camera upside down and reviewing your photographs while you're on location is a huge way to just get outside of what you normally do, get outside of the proverbial box. And you'd be surprised how you might identify a compositional, I guess, flaw or something that you really don't like, but you wanted to notice it on location if you did not flip your camera upside down. So it's definitely something that, like I said earlier, it is absolutely worth the few seconds or maybe the minute to do, just to see if it's something that might be able to help you out in the future. Oh man, I'm looking absolutely amazing right now. It's boiling out here. So before I do wrap things up here, I do just want to say a real big thanks to the sponsor of this week's video, which is Squarespace, who I use for all of my website and e-commerce needs. Squarespace provides a dynamic and attractive online platform to create your website. You can display your photography using Squarespace's professional portfolio designs and customize the layout and look and feel of your gallery just so you can make it your own. With Squarespace's traffic overview feature, you can track trends in page visits and views to better optimize your content, and you can even grow and engage with your customers with Squarespace's email campaign tools, which will enable you to create engaging emails that match your website with your products or blog post and logo, just so your messaging remains consistent. So if you're looking to start a new website or possibly upgrade your current website, check out squarespace.com/Mark Denney for a free trial and 10% off your first purchase. So I do hope you enjoyed this week's video. If you have any questions about this kind of flip you on your head upside down compositional technique, please leave those in the comments section below, and I'll do my best to get back in touch with you as soon as possible. And I do hope it's something that you will try the next time you're either out on location or maybe the next time you're reviewing some of your photographs when you get home, just to flip it upside down and just pay attention to the shapes that are created by the objects and the negative space that is created by the shapes. I know it's kind of a tongue twister, but once you do it a couple times, you'll definitely get the hang of it, and I think you will see the benefit of it. And most importantly, like I said earlier, it just gets you kind of thinking a little bit differently, and I think that is what art is all about. What photography is all about, is just thinking a little bit outside of the box. So I do hope you find that information beneficial. If you did enjoy this week's video, if you could give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already, share the video with friends if you enjoyed it that much, and as always, it just got really dark. I really do appreciate you checking out this week's video, and I will see you all next Wednesday. Bye.